Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session
with your host, Michael Reardon.
Hey, Tiffany. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Are you ready?
I am.
I want to get into your work. Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Practitioner. That's a lot. Can you explain what that means?
Well, you could make it just really easy and say that I'm a holistic health coach because that's basically what I do. But functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, what would differentiate that from just like a nutritionist is that there's functional diagnostic testing that I can do. So it's more of a functional medicine approach combined with nutrition. But I do really just holistic healing because I also work with circadian health and quantum biology and energetics and the nutrition side and the testing. So I really holistically work with people, healing on all the layers.
And what got you into this work? Was it something that you always knew you wanted to do, or was it something that you fell into?
My own health journey, really, ultimately. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease at age 17. And that really set the journey and the path for me of just seeking answers, seeking knowledge about how to support my health. Because, at that time, like the information wasn't available the way that it is now. And this was in the 90s. So it just sort of set me on a quest of trying to find my own solutions, trying to figure out for myself. And I just became really interested in health and wellness. And my career path changed a lot. I've been through a lot of different teaching and business, and I owned a couple yoga studios for a decade. And then I was in an executive remote corporate world. But this thread always was like one of service and helping people, and two, health and wellness was always really big to me. So eventually it just made sense to be helping people with their healing, because ultimately I achieved healing and balance in my own body. And then I just wanted to help others with their challenges and help them feel better.
I'm not too familiar with Crohn's. What is that disease? I know the big ones, like cancer, diabetes, the mainstream one. But then we get, Crohn's is something, is it something that's common with people, or is it something that's more rare?
It's actually quite common. It's an autoimmune disease. But it primarily affects the gut. So symptoms typically show up for people with Crohn's in their digestive tract. Is really like what is the main, loudest symptoms is like pain and difficulty, keeping on weight and food and stuff like that, like keeping food in. It can also kind of extend then to joint swelling, but it's basically an autoimmune disease. And there's other ones, colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, they're all in the same family. But actually, really, autoimmune diseases in general are on the rise. And so many people have them. Like 80% of autoimmune diseases are women. And so it's become really like a chronic problem overall, just the body's immune system thinking it's doing the right thing and kind of overreacting.
Do you know why autoimmune diseases are on the rise? Have you done the work to look into that, or do you have a theory on it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, there's a lot of theories. I would say ultimately where I've come to with it, it's a combination of things. So with autoimmune, it's many pieces of the puzzle, and you have to look at all of them. But ultimately, I think if you had to boil it down to the couple main issues, it's modern life, meaning sort of the way that we're living disconnected from nature, living really sort of more artificially, not in an environment that supports healing. So we really do need the sun, we need water, we need the magnetism of the earth, we need trees, we need to be outside, and we're not. We're exposed to sort of a lot of artificial things in the house. Toxins, the increase of toxins in products, in foods. People aren't eating real foods anymore. There's that. And then in general, I would say just like daily life stressors, because stress is actually a huge component to what impacts the body at a cellular level. And then ultimately, it almost doesn't matter which thing they call it, which name or label something ends up getting. At the root level, it's actually dysfunction in the mitochondria. Every symptom can kind of be boiled down to the mitochondria. This is where my study has taken me over the last really deep dive in the last 5 years, which is why I studied circadian biology, and I've become like a quantum biology expert as well, and looking at mitochondria, because basically all those things that I just said, they degrade the mitochondria. And the mitochondria then are just creating dysfunction. And for each person, it shows up differently. Everybody's got their own weak links. And so it might show up as Crohn's for me. It might show up as, diabetes for this person and high blood pressure for this person. But the body's not repairing itself because there's just metabolic chaos at that really base level because of all those factors. Medications, over-the-counter meds, these things, they're just stressors on the body. Yeah.
Yeah. Modern life. We are all living in it. We have cell phones. We are living in that artificial type of environment. I mean, our homes are comfortable. I mean, like, we have AC. We live somewhere hot. I live in Texas, so it's super hot right now, and we have AC. So we're like, this is great. And the cooler months here in Texas, like, we have winter, but it's not like New England winter where it's snow, blizzards, things like that. But even up there, we have furnaces, AC. We can create an environment for us that's very comfortable.
Yeah.
And many people, when it comes to these varying degrees and temperatures or climates or weather patterns, they say, you know what, I don't want to go outside and get wet. I don't want to go outside and get hot and sweat. People love the modern life because it keeps them comfortable. What's your take on getting people out of this modern life, getting back into nature, getting back to the roots of who we were versus who we are today?
Well, I do have a bit of tough love here with people when I talk to them, because people say they want natural health, right? This is the thing. We're like, but we want natural health. There is this shift of people sort of waking up and realizing they don't want to take medications. They don't want to be artificially relying on things that aren't natural to keep them going, to keep them, living. And then my sort of the way that I put it to people is, well, you're saying you want natural health, but you're attached to an artificial life, and they're not compatible. And so, I'm realistic. I don't live in the woods. That would be amazing. I would love to, but I'm living like a modern life right now. But I have made it a non-negotiable priority to work being outside into my everyday, regardless. It's like, to me, it's the non-negotiable. I have to see the sunrise. I have to get fresh air, even if it's cloudy and it's overcast and it's cold. You can make excuses, or you can have the health you want. And there is just kind of like, I do say to people kindly, but tough love, like, which one do you want? Because if you're going to insist on all that comfort and staying inside and relying on technology, then you're also going to have to rely on medications. You're going to have to accept that that's going to degenerate your body a little bit more, because it needs the inputs from nature. We're mammals. We're basic biological creatures. Yes, we've become so advanced as humans, right? But like, our basic biology hasn't caught up with that. We just really are mammals who need inputs from nature. And people feel it when they do actually make themselves. And I can tell from like how you're talking about it in your face, like, you have that feeling, right? When you're in the woods, when you're by trees, when you get outside and get fresh air, something happened. Your body responds to it. And all of a sudden, like, you're like, oh, this feels so good. It's your body saying, like, yes, please, more of this. Give me more of it. So, it just comes down to a choice, just like everything else. It's like, well, you don't have to, but then you're going to be making it's trade-offs. You're going to make compromises, and it is going to affect your health. So which one's more important to you?
When I was young, I mean, I was always outside, like studying my bike, like let's go into the yard, trees, flips off trees, the dangerous stuff.
Yes.
And as I grew up, and I remember especially in college, I did a lot of hiking where I would go hiking every week. And it didn't matter if it was snow because I lived in Greece. So
Okay.
I lived in Connecticut. And I had my snowshoes, I had my snow gear. Like I was equipped to spend all day out and stuff. And even in the hot weather, the humidity days, it was enjoyable. And sometimes you were tired. I just had a full week of work. I have a bunch of stuff to do. But every single time I went and I walked 5 to 10 miles on this hike, you would think I would be exhausted. But it was the opposite. I felt invigorated. I felt alive. I felt more alive. I was hiking up there doing 10 miles than I am just here going out with my kid and, being outside here, there, sporadically. We have a garden, so we do stuff in the garden. But it is very different than spending hours in nature.
Yes.
If you're in Texas, you can definitely do it, but it is different. There are days when you probably don't want to stay outside for 5 to 6 hours, and in the hot sun, especially if you have a kid, because then that's going to be a whole nother ordeal. We make excuses. I'm making an excuse, and this is why I'm saying it, because I can say, you know what, the reason why I'm not outside in nature as I like to be or I used to be was because I don't live in New England. Had the best hiking trails. I mean, like the trees are beautiful, they're tall, and compared to what we have here, it's kind of like, like what's the point? And I find many people do that in all aspects of their life, not just with their health and their fitness. It could be any aspect. It could even be career, where they say, why even bother when that was better? So they just kind of stay stuck and they don't make a change. Even if that change has some benefits to them for a moment, it might be something that's in their mind they have to get over. But how can you help people get over nuance of maybe looking past that something they had that was really good? We can even use health for older people who might say, well, my back hurts, my knees hurt now, so we are making excuses. People start to get out of their excuses.
Well, that's a great question. And mindset, of course, is huge in terms of health. For so many reasons. One, because you actually have to believe that change is possible. You have to set the intention. You have to figure out your why and what you want and see that vision. But I do think it's so necessary to let go of the idea of perfection and all or nothing. And I was the biggest offender of that. Like, I was definitely an all or nothing person. Everything had to be perfect. If I couldn't do 90 minutes of yoga, I didn't do any. If, it was just like everything was just like full on or not at all. And at some point, as you're saying, like, you just realize you're making excuses, right? So it's like, well, I can't do it all, so I'm not going to do any of it. And I think if you just think about it, any person would say, like, that's illogical. It doesn't even make sense. One of the things that I share with my clients a lot is a lot of principles from this book, The Slight Edge. And it's this idea that, like, the tiniest thing over time done consistently actually have the biggest impact in the long run because there's the compounding effect. So, but generally the things that are going to move the needle the most in terms of long-term goals and outcomes, they're the easiest to do, and then also therefore the easiest not to do, because then you make excuses because it doesn't feel like that big 4-hour hike. So a 10-minute walk doesn't feel like the same impact as a 4-hour hike would. So then you go like, well, it's not really going to make a difference. But if you did a 10-minute walk every single day for 6 months, there's going to be a difference. If you do that for a year, that's compounding even more, and that's going to make a difference. Like, we just have to accept that is actually, there's science behind that. I mean, it is just the reality. It's not even just in your mind. It's like, that actually is how it works. Like, and so I think we have to stop with this, like, big, grand if it's that or nothing, or it's like we want the big fast impact. That's just part of the culture we're in. And it's those tiny little changes that actually make the difference. It's like, I'll share an example with my son. Through his teenage years, he really went off of everything I'd ever taught him about eating or being healthy. And he, at some point he didn't feel good anymore. And he said, like, Mom, I'm ready. I need you. And he says it this way: I need you to functional medicine me. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to functional medicine you. That's not he's like, yeah, do the whole thing. Functional medicine me. And, but the same philosophy, he was just like, no, I'm going to go all in. Tell me all the things. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. That's going to set you up for failure, actually. I said, so let's choose one thing that you can stick to that's going to be really consistent and sustainable. Let's make that one change, be committed to it. It's going to be small enough that you can handle it, but impactful enough over time that it will make a difference. And we looked at his diet and we decided like the one thing, and actually what I had him do was remove something that was like an offender, like a stressor. And I just had him stick to that. And then, over time, he actually did feel a lot better. And then he was like, okay, right, what's the next thing? And I think that's a better approach. There are some people who really I'm one of those people when I started when I really learned about, I'd been collecting all these bits and pieces and breadcrumb pieces, right? I'd gotten this piece and that piece and this piece. But then I had a massive kind of flare and crisis in 2019 that just woke me up, and I said, like, enough's enough. I've got to actually really figure this out for good. And so when I learned the functional medicine piece and it brought everything into the picture, I went all in because it was actually kind of critical for me to like really go all in because I was facing hospitalization, very intense medications again. So in that case, I was like, I'm going to do all the things all at once because this to me is life or death almost. But most people aren't in that critical of a situation. And so if they can just get comfortable with like progress over perfection and just moving the needle consistently in a repeated effort in the direction that you're going, you will eventually get there. And then, you'll actually have stuck to it. So that's my philosophy about the approach with this stuff. And to your point, to anything, it's like if you're trying to save money and you can't put $1,000 away a month, like put $10. It's better than nothing. It's like do something that moves you in the direction that you want to head, and you will eventually start to that will compound and it will pay off. So
yeah, I was just thinking about that, like investing, where people will invest, let's say $100, and they're like, "Oh, $100, it's not a big deal." But compound interest over the years, it is a big deal, and people don't realize that it can even be with your mindset and your health.
yeah,
And there's a trigger most of the time for most people. I find people who come work with me, they don't have a perfect life and everything is going according to plan. It's typically something is broken.
yeah,
And not even like people just come in for a checkup, like so you might go to a doctor. Say, hey doctor, I'm here for my yearly physical, or just doing a physical, I'm worked out, make sure everything's good. I like to do that. But when it comes to our own minds, people don't necessarily check in as frequently as they should. And when things are broken, that's when they have no choice but to pay attention.
yeah.
So it could be a health issue, ailment, a grieving moment, someone's lives, a loss of something, someone's. And that's when people start to pay attention. But the reality is we should be paying attention much more regularly in our given day. And I have found, like, when you're in nature, you can see more things because here in your house, things don't necessarily change that frequently. And if it does, it takes some time. Let's use dust, for example. I don't know people dusting their house anymore because I know they have HVAC, but I like dusting. If you live in an old school home, you don't have HVAC, a lot of dust is going to build up. If you have a lamp, you have like a mantle somewhere, if you just run your hand over it after maybe a month or two, it's going to have a layer of dust. And if you wait a year, it's going to be even thicker. 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? When was the last time you did dust? The dusting is a reference for maintenance.
Yes.
We are cleaning up, but sometimes we don't even know the dust is accumulating because it's something that we don't necessarily are putting our attention to. And in nature, though, things change. We have our seasons. The sun's out, like the sun is out, the sun is setting, the sky is blue, the sky is gray. My flowers are blooming, my flowers are dead, my grass is alive here in Texas, my grass is dead. So there's just these different stages that we can see much more readily. But yet we haven't encapsulated ourselves. And as we, began, we have to get back out to nature. And I do think there is the mind-body healing that we have to start to focus on, because it does begin with the mind, and we do have to remain consistent, disciplined. There's so many things, but yet, distraction here can stop me from doing something. My kid needs something, so I can't go to the gym, or I can't go to yoga, or I can't eat healthy today. What are some steps that you utilize in your practice that help individuals stay on track and think of it almost like a Z fitness thing where, all right, we are here. Let's begin. All right, you fell off. This is how I'm going to get you back. And then our goal is this. Do we stop or do we keep on pushing?
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's important to have those strategies of the reset, because we all go through it, right? There's just, life's going to throw things at you, and you can be in a really good rhythm. I talk a lot about this progress over perfection. And it seems to be this principle of these small changes over time make a big difference. And so what I say to people is with those derailed moments, I'm like, okay, the train came off the track. Great. But just like the improvements compound, so does the derailment will compound, and it will go much faster. That will snowball. So before you do that, let's just redirect. Let's come back. Let's reset. So a couple things, I work with people individually, and it does depend on their lifestyle. I help them, I look at the components, and where I usually start with people is, let's look at most people have some sort of routine or rhythm in their day that is just built in, whether it's walking the dog, they just have to walk the dog. The dog has to get walked. There's not going to be a day where they can skip it because the dog has to get walked. And I'm like, okay, well, that's built in. So do your breath work during that. If you can't just take separate time to do breath work, do some mindful breathing. Instead of being on your phone while you're walking your dog, make a commitment. The phone's going to stay, away. And that's when you're going to do some breathing and mindfulness. If you're driving in the car, you've got a commute that is something you can't get over. There's no way around that. You're going to have this commute. Listen to a podcast or something that's going to be helpful in terms of whatever it is you're trying to work on, mindfulness, whether it's a health thing, do something for self-development. And then I'm a big fan of capitalizing time in the morning, because then nothing can derail it. Nothing has happened yet. Nothing can derail it. So my 2 asks, I ask my clients to commit to this for a period of time. Usually 1 to 2 weeks after they've committed to this, they don't go back. I have them turn their phone red at night. So this has to do with circadian rhythm, but I'm going to get to how this sets up the morning. To block blue light. So there's a shortcut that you can program on your phone. So you click the 3 buttons and it turns the screen red. It stops the blue light, which helps. I'm wearing my blue blockers right now because it's evening for me. It's 8:30, and I don't want the blue light on me. But I ask them to be mindful of their lighting environment at night. But the red also, you can function on your phone, but it's not that interesting. You're well, I have to do the basics, but I'm not interested. So have them do that at night before they go to bed. I also ask them to put their phone out of the room if they can. The advantage of that is we've set up, here's the couple things you're going to do in the morning before any part of your day starts. And even if that means getting up a little earlier, then that's just a choice that you have to make. But the phone's on red. Ideally, you're not looking at it at all. But if you have to turn off an alarm or do something, you're not getting exposed to blue light, and you're not going to get bombarded with notifications because you can't see them because the phone's red. You do your function, then you put it away. And then that's the part of your morning that you preserve. Like it's like eating, sleeping, brushing your teeth. You have to give yourself some space in the morning. An hour is ideal. If you can give yourself a whole hour somehow in the morning before you're engaging with the rest of your life, great. If you can't, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, looking at sunrise. And it doesn't have to be like the actual sunrise. Just actually going outside during that time of morning is ideal. You've made some space. You're giving yourself a set part of the day where you're just, that's it. Drink your coffee, your tea, whatever. Give yourself that pause of day before you go into it. And then I find that there's nothing that's then you can't make excuses because nothing's happened yet that like derailed it. And so if that becomes the one container you can hold, hopefully you worked other things in, but that one, whether it's read 10 pages, meditate, journal, just sit. I'm a fan of just sitting. You don't even have to be doing something. That's just the other thing. Sometimes I do think we get a little bit like, ooh, I have to meditate and I have to this and I have to that. And then that gets like another thing, right? I'm like, just go sit. Literally sit on your couch with your cup of tea and just contemplate. Go sit outside on your front steps. That's what I used to do. I lived in North Carolina last year for a period of time. And I just had this rhythm. I got up, never looked at my phone, got my tea, went outside, and just sat on my front steps. I didn't have anywhere to park easily to go to, but I wanted to have that early morning light. And I would just sit there and I'd watch people walk their dogs and I'd watch squirrels and I don't know, for 10, 15 minutes. It was just it was quite nice to just do nothing. So I'm a fan of do nothing.
Yeah, it's that moment for you to reflect on what's going on. And a lot of people I have found is they don't like to be quiet because then they're alone themselves. They get to see all the problems that they have, their insecurity, their doubts, their fears, everything begins to rear its ugly face almost immediately. And so we prefer to be distracted. Let's turn on the TV. Let's look at it. And from there, it's like a Band-Aid for what we should be doing.
Yeah.
And it is a mental battle that we have to go through to change ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if we need to change our diet or maybe our nutrition, guess what? We have to go through that mental battle. It might not be easy because guess what? Pizza tastes good. Cake and cookies taste good.
Right.
They're yummy. Right? I'm not saying that you shouldn't have them, but we learn balance. Or if balance is not a good word, maybe what works for you, like a harmony, creating that harmony in your life. Yeah. Because eating pizza every single day, it's not good for you. Hamburgers is not good for you. Now, it might be good for the soul, but is it good for the body? Probably not. Yeah. And if it's not good for the body, it's good for the mind because the mind's could be looking at the body, and the body is going to help you move where you need to go, and the mind is going to reflect that. It's just happening. There's just so much happening in our day. And mindfulness is important. But yet, many people, they just don't understand what mindfulness truly is. People do think, if I have to meditate, I have to sit down and be quiet and I can't have any distractions. But there's so many, avenues for someone to meditate. There's walking meditation, there's sitting meditation. You can go on your porch, see people walking their dogs, say hi to them, good morning, just being in the moment. People don't realize that.
Yeah.
You're
Take a longer shower.
Yeah.
Honestly.
There was a scene in The Peaceful Warrior. It's a book about Daniel, and he's an Olympic gold medalist. He got into a motorcycle accident. He shattered his leg. So basically, all the doctors, all the coaches said, you will never be able to be in the Olympics. You'll never win gold. Well, he showed that, right? And one of the things he did when he had got one of his mentors was the mentors helped him be more mindful about what he was doing, even about the foods that he was putting into the body. Yeah, even going as far to how fast you're eating your food. Slow it down, take it easy, right? because it takes about 15 minutes for the body to tell the brain, hey, I'm full. So many people do overeat, especially our foods today are so dense. So like a hamburger is packed with calories, and you just don't realize, like, I'm hungry. You feel hungry, so you'll have 3 cheeseburgers before you know it, you ate 3,000 calories. And that's just way too much. But anyway, going back to the story, there was a scene when he was in the shower because the mentor was trying to help him with the bulk. And so he basically just like looked down. He saw like the water kind of dripping on his hand, and everything seemed to slow down. And I encourage people to try that when, the next time you're in the shower. But don't just waste a bunch of water. But like, just slow down, because we take things for granted sometimes. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be in the shower. It could be your kid, right? Just paying attention to every single step, like being methodical about it.
Yeah.
Like every step when you're cooking, right? Maybe you cook your favorite dish, eggs, whatever. You know how to cook eggs, probably very easy. It's probably something that's just second nature. But if you pay attention, right, the egg, you see the little shells. I mean, your mind goes through a whole different journey now. And in life, we are on this journey. Many people choose to forgo the most important, beautiful aspects of it. That is the moment. Many people are stuck in the past, they're looking at the future, but they cannot remain where they need to be the most. That's where they're going to get the most at. How do you help people get back that moment in their life?
Yeah, well, and a lot of what you said is so beautiful. And I set up a couple different things with my clients, and I think mindfulness journaling, gratitude journaling, morning or night is actually really helpful. But I encourage those kind of moments, exactly as you're saying. Like, we just set some parameters, like don't have the TV on when you're eating dinner, slow down, chew your food, take moments away from your computer. It's just so simple, but just breathe. Step away from your computer during the day. Go stand outside, ideally. Take some deep breaths. Be mindful how you're washing the dishes. Like, when you were talking, I was reminded of something that I love to remind myself of, which is the magic in the mundane. Like, there really is, as you're saying, like when you're walking, look at the leaves and look at the leaves and look at the leaf falling, or like watch it. Like, I would watch squirrels. Like, there's just this like magic in it. But I think it's about like always remembering, coming back to like, it is important to remember the why. Like, why, I think, I know this gets talked about a lot, but it can't be overlooked. It's like, any time that you're trying to make some sort of change in life, you do need to have an anchor of why you wanted that change to begin with. Because as things come up, and then it becomes easy to kind of fall back into the norm. That's another thing. We look around, we're like, well, this is normal. This is how everybody's living. It's like, well, all right, it is. But that's the myth of normal. Like, it's like common, but is it normal? Is it normal for all of us to be so stressed? And everybody's conversation, like, how are you? I'm so stressed. Oh, me too. And then it becomes like we're in the mud puddle together. And it's like, well, who's the most busy? Why are we glorifying that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's about recognizing that there was a reason, whatever it is you're embarking on, there was a reason you began the change to begin with. And whatever you have to do, whatever works for you, it helps me a lot when I'm working towards something, or I'm struggling to stay consistent on something. I make notes for myself. Like, I put them on bathroom mirrors. I put them, I'm doing that right now because I was launching a new group program, and it's something I've been working on for a long time. And I'm going to be really authentic and truthful right now, that I was really struggling with like staying focused on that, because I was like, well, but this client needs me and that client needs me, and I'll get to that. And I wrote myself some inspirational like reminders of why I was doing it. Not like just do it. Those weren't the kind of things. It was like, make a bigger impact, reach more people. More people need healing. Like, these were the things, these were my whys. Like, I need to stay focused because that's why I'm doing it. And so then for me, I think that that's the thing. It's like, why did you want to be more mindful to begin with? Oh, remember, you were super stressed. You were having difficulty sleeping. You're not even enjoying your time with your kids because your mind's everywhere and you're missing, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, how are they 8 years old and they were just 3? Write down those whys, because then you'll come back to that moment of like, I know I'm doing that. And so, yeah, that's huge for me.
No, very true. The why is so important. And I think many people, when they think of like a health coach, they think of someone who's perfect. They're like, oh, this person must be perfect. They have a perfect mindset, perfect life. And even with, me mindset coaching, it's like, it's not about being perfect. It's about being imperfect. I would rather be imperfect, learn from my mistakes, and then help others mitigate some of those mistakes in their life so they don't have to go through the same struggles and trapping that I have. One of the greatest things that you can get from a mentor is that they have already walked the path that you're looking to walk. And now you already have the guide. Imagine if you went so far as to go hike, right? Because you listen to that. So I'm going to get into nature, but you never walk this trail in your life. And they have some markings on the trail, things like that. But you say, I'm not going to bring my phone, I'm not going to bring my map, I'm going to do it myself. Don't think that path is going to be for you. Because now you have to do everything that has already been done before by someone else. There's a map, and you're trying to do it yourself. I understand there can be an aspect of the journey saying, I want to go and experience this for myself. But some things you don't have to, right? Think of it as creating the wheel or reinventing the wheel, they call it. You're probably not going to say, well, I want to go to the grocery store. Okay, well, how can I get there? I can walk. I can do it old school. I can ride a bike. I can get in a car, get an Uber, or something like that. And if you think about it, all but one requires wheels. So you're not going to say, I'm going to create the wheel again so I can get to my destination.
Right.
We find that there's going to be things and alternative methods that we can utilize and say, this has already been done. Let me utilize this to my benefit. And just as we talked, there's just so many different avenues. You do journal, you do yoga, you can do, just sitting meditation on your front porch. All these things are powerful and impactful, and we just have to be made aware of them sometimes. So it's not about doing it perfect the first time or the second time or the 100th time. But maybe you are a long time advocate of mindset, and yoga, and mindfulness, and you have your days where you feel off. But those are the days when you should reach out and ask for help. And I have found that the best thing that a person can do is ask for help. Say, I need some assistance. And we live in this individualized, solitary type of world where we think we're in this fight by ourselves. That is so far from the truth. We are not in this fight by ourselves. We are in this together. We are a community. We are people that benefit from each other. And the sooner that you can rely on someone, the sooner you're going to get propelled to your goals and your dreams and all the things that you want in life.
Yeah.
And our conversation is just start. I love talking to you, Tiffany. Of course, I would love to get the final words from you, and then, of course, tell the audience what it's about you.
Yeah. So, thank you so much. It's been so great to talk to you. I think what I would just like to leave people with is, I think whatever it is that you're wanting to improve, in the work that I do, it's around health, feeling better, getting energy back, like, healing symptoms, but it's that trust and believe that truly whatever it is that you want is available. Your body can heal. It absolutely has the capacity to heal. And again, as you said, if you're feeling overwhelmed, there is so much noise out there, and then we all feel like we've got to figure it out ourselves. And it's almost this information overload, and you can't be an expert on everything. I do think because of all the information out there, we feel like we just should be an expert on everything because it's at our fingertips. And it's like, to your point, just like lean into someone that can help you. Whatever that is that you're trying to work on, ask for help, get a support network in place, because the point, going back to your why, the point is to make the improvement that you're wanting to make. So give yourself the investment of time, help, community, some support network that you put into place, so that, because if we all move in this direction, it's like, the rising tide lifts all boats. That's what I believe. It's like, I want people to feel better because I want them to have the life that they deserve and a life that they love. But if more people are happy with their lives and how they feel and what they're doing and their purpose and, have a better mindset, like we're raising the consciousness. And it just becomes actually, I know that sounds so utopian, but it does become, it's contagious, that positive energy, those impacts. And then we also have to be vulnerable and share our struggles. And that's part of it. So it's knowing that there's nothing wrong with asking for help, stumbling along the way, being honest about that. Because the point is, we all want to see each other succeed. So let's help each other.
People can find you.
My website's the easiest. So it has everything. TiffanyCagwin.com. Last name is spelled Cagewin. From there, of course, there's all the socials. You could link to there. But it's easy to book a call with me. And that's what I encourage people to do. You can just book right on my website, book a discovery call. I love to talk to people if they're interested and they think you know what? I wake up every day and I'm just always tired and I just feel kind of blah and maybe my gut's off or I've got joint pain or I just can't get past let's have a conversation. I've got different options. I work one-on-one with people. I have this group program now I'm in the middle of the launch right now, actually. We'll see if it's the right fit and I can explain, how I work. And then I put a lot of good information out there on my blog and my social media and stuff. So I'm pretty easy to find, honestly, if you just Google my name. I'm not hiding from anyone.
Well, we don't want you hiding. We want you out there. We want you helping people. We want you to keep on making the impacts that you are making. And all the links are going to be in the description box below. I encourage everyone to follow, to subscribe, to stay in the movement of the better you to a better health, both body and mind. There's just so much more to life at any given time. And most of the time, the only thing we have to do is pay attention. So, Tiffany, great conversation today. I loved every bit of it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.